official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, presents the official podcast of Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On today's program, we'll give you the latest news from the world of University of Georgia athletics and more. And now, from the broadcast studios of Dogs on Demand, here's your host, Chris Hall.
Hey guys, good to have you with us on a Thursday night. Chris Hall here, in with you on Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. It's been a while since we've been with you for a little dog talk. We have some stuff to talk about tonight. Of course, the University of Georgia headed toward the Peach Bowl. Are we ready? It is drawing ever closer nigh to that big matchup between the University of Georgia and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I guess you're supposed to say the Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course, it's coming up on New Year's Eve, December 31st. Starting at 8 p.m., the Peach Bowl played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. And we've got some stuff to talk about with you tonight concerning this matchup coming up. And we have some other things, of course, dealing with the University of Georgia. If you'd like to jump in here, give us your comments, give us your questions. We'd love to have you to join us on our program tonight. This weekend, we'll have the opportunity. In fact, tomorrow morning, we'll have the opportunity to talk to Gary Stokan, who is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. He'll be on with us on our podcast, and we'll be talking with him about the upcoming game, how the Peach Bowl is getting ready for probably, well, without a doubt, the best college football semifinal game, at least of this season and maybe for a long time. And so we'll be talking with Gary Stokan, who does a great job. He's the CEO and president of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So be looking for that podcast. Of course, our program is brought to you by Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs. When it comes time for you to finance or refinance your home, be sure to check out Southeast Mortgage, again, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs. They are professional folks. They know what they're doing. Listen, they've been doing this for a long time. They know how to work the market these days, with all of the uncertainty in the mortgage market and in the housing market. They know how to deal with stuff like that. They're very professional. But they're not, like stiff professionals. They are very friendly, personable people. They treat you like family. I know this, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't really mean it. I know these guys. I've broke bread with them, talked with them, had some wonderful times with these guys. And so when it comes time for you to finance or refinance your home, and listen, I've done that, been there, done that. It is a tall task. It is a tall order. Can be a stressful thing to go through that process. And so you want somebody to help you, and to really do everything they can to help you accomplish your goal and to help you to ease the stress of the process. Well, check out the folks at Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lenders of the Georgia Bulldogs. So let's talk a little bit about Georgia and Ohio State. And we've got some other stuff as well in our stack of stuff. But let's talk about the big game first of all. First of all, it's on New Year's Eve, and it's at 8 o'clock. So it's 8 o'clock New Year's Eve. And, with television being involved and with all that you'll have involved, it could very well be that this game may stretch into the new year. Now, tomorrow when I'm talking to Gary Stokan, CEO and president of the Peach Bowl, I'm gonna make a suggestion. Look, it may be the new year before this game is over or before the stadium is cleared out. So since it's the Chick-fil-A, since it's the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and Chick-fil-A loves to feature the cows saying, "Eat more chicken." Downtown Atlanta already drops the peach, the giant peach. Why don't we get a giant cow, not a real cow, obviously, a replica of a cow, and drop a cow from the ceiling of Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Now, what do you think about that? Do you endorse that idea? Should I mention that to Gary Stokan when we talk to him tomorrow? Lewis Harrison steps in with us. He's got a score prediction. Georgia 42, Ohio State 28. Sounds interesting. Could very well be that. Georgia 42, Ohio State 28. I haven't figured out my prediction as of yet as far as the score is concerned. I think Georgia's going to win this game. And Kirk Herbstreit, who is a graduate of Ohio State. In fact, the only other time when Georgia has played Ohio State, Kirk Herbstreit was the quarterback for Ohio State. That was in a bowl game. I don't have that in front of me. But Kirk Herbstreit, of course, of ESPN, has said, Ohio State better watch out. This could get ugly for Ohio State. Now, I don't know why he's saying that. And, I don't know if he really, believes that. But he said this could get really ugly for Ohio State. And he thinks, as of right now it may change. I think Kirk Herbstreit is leaning toward, picking Georgia in this game. I think Georgia's going to win this game. And it may not be as close as we're thinking. There's a lot of scuttlebutt around on the, in social media and different sites saying, this is going to be a tough game for Georgia. And I think it will be for the first half. But I just got a sneaking suspicion, and I think it goes beyond just being a great supporter of the University of Georgia or a big supporter of our Bulldogs. I just think Georgia has the superior team. You've had two star players for Ohio State, albeit they have been injured, but two star players for Ohio State saying they're not going to play in the bowl game, resting from injury and protecting themselves for the NFL draft. Georgia, no such issue with Georgia in that regard. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So you have number 1 Georgia taking on number 4 Ohio State, and that's coming up at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, December 31st at 8 p.m. And so it may be the new year when everything is settled. Now the other matchup, the other semifinal, features number 2 Michigan against number 3 TCU. That's in the Vrbo Fiesta Bowl. What is a Vrbo? I know what a Chick-fil-A is. It's where you can rent a home for vacations or something. Okay. Anyway, that's the Vrbo Fiesta Bowl. That's the other semifinal game. That'll be at 4:00 on New Year's Eve. Both of these games will be on ESPN. We're going to talk more about that game in a future program. I'm leaning right now for Michigan to win that game, but I would not be surprised if TCU wins that game. I wouldn't be surprised if both Big Ten teams went down in the playoffs. In fact, it would kind of make me happy. I know I'm such a homer for the SEC, but I don't know. We're not making that prediction yet. This will be Georgia's third appearance in the college football playoffs since the inaugural playoff during the 2014 and 15 season. In 2017-18, Georgia defeated Oklahoma 54-48 in that Rose Bowl. Boy, do we ever remember that game. To this day, we remember that game. One of the great games in Georgia football history, as Georgia came from behind to defeat Oklahoma 54-48. But then, of course, Georgia went on to play Alabama in the national championship game. Georgia had a lead, but Alabama came back to beat Georgia in that game 26-23. We don't forget that one either. So that was back in 2017 and 2018. Hey, Barry, how you doing? Yes, sir. Go Dogs. Last season, of course, Georgia was in the college football playoffs, beat Michigan 34-11 in the Orange Bowl. I'm kind of leaning toward a score like that for Georgia and Ohio State, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe that's just being overly hopeful. But Georgia beat Michigan last year 34-11 in the Orange Bowl. Then Georgia went on to win the national championship against Alabama 33-18. Securing the first national title for Georgia in 41 years. So Georgia now, this is the third time that the Georgia Bulldogs have been in the college football playoffs, second year in a row. They'll be playing, of course, in the Peach Bowl. It will be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and this will be the third time this season that Georgia will be playing in Mercedes-Benz. Of course, the first game of the season, the Chick-fil-A kickoff classic thing with Oregon, Georgia won over Oregon handily. Then against LSU in the SEC championship game, and now this game in the college football playoffs with Ohio State. So it's Georgia is kind of feels very much at home in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Hey Jason, how you doing? It's going to be a home game, he says, and could very well be. And let's see, Barry says our defense will make a statement. I got a sneaking suspicion that Georgia's going to be all right in this game. I just, of course, I'm a nervous wreck, even when Georgia plays Vanderbilt. I'm just, I'm from the Larry Munson school of everybody can beat you. You have to go out there. That's a terrible impression, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're getting ready for this now. Speaking of Gary Stokan, listen to the news conference he had with both of the coaches and both of the representatives of Georgia and Ohio State. And obviously the game is sold out. It actually has been sold out since July. Stokan said the Peach Bowl delivered the tickets to Ohio State. Their allotment of tickets to Ohio State on Monday, they were sold out by Wednesday. I think pretty much the same for Georgia's allotment. You have an allotment. But the game has pretty well been sold out. From what I understand, since July, there are now standing room only tickets that are available. And then there's what they call aftermarket tickets, people selling their tickets online. And so, you can, if you want to go to the game, you can check that out. But I did check out some of the aftermarket ticket prices, and they're ranging in the $600 a ticket range. So, but it's going to be sold out. And Stokan says it probably will be the highest attendance in a Peach Bowl ever, even higher, more in attendance than the Super Bowl that was played in Atlanta some years ago. Let me grab some comments here. Lewis wants to know what my score prediction is. I haven't settled on it yet. I'm kind of leaning toward maybe that 35-11 score between Georgia and Michigan last year. I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I don't know. Hey, Miss Jane, Merry Christmas to you. Indeed. Hope you have your Christmas shopping done these days. I don't know if I'm done or not. Am I done? No, I've still got a few things to get. Go Dogs, indeed. Patrick, go Dogs. Vince, Charlie, Lewis, Grizzard will be in attendance to see our Dogs bring that win back to Athens. And of course, all of those guys, Charlie Trippi, Vince Dooley, Lewis Grizzard, obviously so involved with the University of Georgia over the years, no longer with us. And so I'm sure wherever they might be, indeed, perhaps, maybe they'll be licking on that game coming up on New Year's Eve. Jimmy Thompson, go Dogs. Going into this game, just let me remind you, and I don't want to bog you down with stats and all that kind of stuff, but some of the leaders for Georgia, Stetson Bennett, by the way, finished fourth in the Heisman Trophy voting. I didn't get a vote, but I would have put him number one, but that's just me. Stetson, here's his statistics on the year. Stetson Bennett, 3,420 passing yards. He's averaged 263 yards a game. He's completed almost 68% of his passes. He has 20 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. He's also carried the ball 47 times for 184 yards, and he scored 7 touchdowns rushing. So that's Stetson Bennett's. That's his statistics on the year. Miss Jean, I hope Ladd gets healthy. Kirby Smart talked about that yesterday. Ladd McConkey and Warren McClendon are not involved in the drills, but they are at practice. They're running through, they're keeping themselves fit and ready to go. They're not involved in contact or anything like that, but they are at practice and they're running through conditioning drills. And it's hopeful that both of those players will be ready to, hopefully both of those players will be ready to play against Ohio State. Kenny McIntosh this year, he's rushed for 709 yards on 136 carries, 10 touchdowns. He's also had 37 receptions, 444 yards, and one touchdown pass. Dejon Edwards is rushed for 687 yards. Bowers has 52 receptions, 726 yards. McConkey, 51 receptions, 675 yards. On the defensive side, Jamin Dumas Johnson has 50 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks. Christopher Smith, 36 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 3 interceptions, and 3 pass, where he breaks up the pass. Ohio State, on the other hand, has, Stroud is their quarterback. C.J. Stroud, he's a good quarterback. Bless his heart, he's been a finalist for the Heisman Trophy now for 2 years in a row, has not won it. But he's a good quarterback. Here's his stats for the year. C.J. Stroud, 3,340 yards passing, 278.3 yards passing per game. He has passed for just shy of 67%. He's completed 67% of his passes. 37 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So if you line up Stetson Bennett with Stroud, Bennett actually has passed for more yards. Not quite as many yards passing per game. A little better than Stroud as far as passing completion percentage is concerned. Now he's way behind Stroud as far as touchdown passes are concerned. But, those guys kind of even out statistically. And so there we go. Lewis, why do you think who do you think Georgia will play in the national championship? Well, if Georgia gets by, gosh, that other game, Michigan and TCU. Your head says Michigan, but your heart says, wait a minute. TCU's a tough team. Very evenly matched teams. I kind of lean toward Michigan, but I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. We're going to study on it, get our analytics, and make a prediction in the future. Now, some of the things having to do with the Peach Bowl. Ohio State will be without 2 of its injured stars in the Peach Bowl game with Georgia. Wide receiver Jackson Smith Njaba. Is that it? Njabgi. Okay. Anyway, he's not going to be playing. Njigba. Oh, yeah, you got it. Thank you. Njigba. I'm sorry. Sorry, Jackson Smith Njigba. That's how you say that. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to mutilate that name. Running back Trayvon Henderson. Those 2 players will not be playing for Ohio State. Both players have been dealing with injuries this season. Njigba is a high draft prospect at wide receiver. Henderson is a sophomore running back, and he's been dealing with a foot injury. Now, both of those players will not be playing in the Peach Bowl for Ohio State. Njigba probably is getting ready for the draft. He didn't want to. He's been injured, but he didn't want to hurt his stock. Henderson probably is going to come back for another year at Ohio State. But those 2 players are not going to be playing. And we'll talk about Georgia's injury situation coming up. Speaking of Georgia's injury situation, you got Ladd McConkey and McClendon. And again, those guys have been with the team on the field conditioning, but they have not been involved in any kind of contact. The hope is that they're going to be okay, that they'll be able to play in the game against Ohio State. You hope they do, indeed. By the way, speaking of that, graduation is this weekend at the University of Georgia. And some current and former football players are set to graduate from UGA this coming weekend. Among them, graduating this weekend, Chris Smith plays for Georgia. Of course, Warren McClendon will be graduating this weekend. Also, Jake Fromm will be graduating this weekend. That's cool. Jake's getting his degree, and he'll be graduating this weekend. So here's the players graduating this weekend. Robert Beal plays, of course, for Georgia. He'll be getting a degree in religion. I didn't know Georgia offered a degree in religion. That's interesting. Peyton Bowles plays for Georgia. Political science. Davis Day, former player, is getting a degree in management. Jake Fromm, former Georgia quarterback. He's on the practice squad with the Commanders. He's getting his degree in finance. Warren McClendon, sport management. Nathan Priestley, sport management. Christopher Smith, sport management. And Trammell Walthour also will be graduating this weekend in getting a degree in sport management. So there you go. Congratulations to those guys getting their degrees this weekend from the University of Georgia. Just some other notes here a little bit and talk about some stuff. Georgia, and this is kind of interesting. You know, if you want to know how to be the number 1 and 2 teams in the country, if you look at Georgia and Michigan, you kind of look at them, okay? You study the stats, you study the teams. If you want to know if there's one thing that makes them the 2 best teams in the country, apparently, here's the formula. If you want to be number 1 and number 2 in the country, average over 200 yards rushing a game and hold your opponents to under 100 yards rushing a game. That is a common thing between Georgia and Michigan. They are the only 2 Power 5 teams to average over 200 yards rushing per game while holding their opponents to under 100 yards on the ground. Kind of interesting. Opponents have been held to just 77 yards rushing per game against Georgia, while Georgia has averaged 207 yards rushing on the ground. And Michigan has given up only 85 yards rushing per game while averaging over 243 yards rushing. So those are the only 2 Power 5 teams, Georgia and Michigan, who average over 200 yards rushing while giving up less than 100 yards on the ground. Kind of an interesting statistic. Excuse me. Now, that's going to be challenged a little bit. Each of these teams are going to challenge one another as far as, holding the opponent under 100 yards rushing for Ohio State and Georgia. How is this game going to be won? The game between Georgia and Ohio State is going to be won. Or if Georgia plays Michigan, it's going to be won in the trenches. It's just always is who's going to control the line of scrimmage, offense or defense. That's where it's won. The listed capacity for a football game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium is 71,000. There is an ability to expand the seating to 75,000 on both sidelines and in one of the end zones. The record attendance for Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the record attendance is 78,347. That was in the 2019 Peach Bowl between LSU and Oklahoma. That was also a playoff semifinal between top-ranked LSU and fourth-ranked Oklahoma. This year's game probably will exceed that number. Gary Stokan, who is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl, said, "We have sold out 22 of the last 24 Chick-fil-A Peach Bowls, and this will be another one." Stokan has said that they have now added 2,000 standing room only tickets. So the attendance for the upcoming Peach Bowl game at Mercedes-Benz probably will be somewhere between 78,000 and 79,000 for the game. And of course, a lot of folks are going to be watching it on ESPN. Now it's on New Year's Eve. I mean, I don't care when they play the game. You know, they could play it December 26th at 3:00 in the morning and I'd be there. But I don't know. New Year's Eve, okay. But I don't get a vote in none of that. I wish Georgia had the 4:00 game, to be honest with you. You know, because you got a time difference. You got, Georgia in one time zone, you got Arizona in the other. And it seemed like it would have made more sense to have Georgia playing in the 4:00 game, but it didn't. Okay, whatever. Stetson Bennett again finished fourth in this year's Heisman Trophy voting, trailing the winner USC quarterback Caleb Williams, TCU quarterback Max Duggan, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. And so Stetson Bennett came in fourth in the voting for the Heisman Trophy. I don't get a vote, but if I had got a vote, I would have voted, obviously, for Stetson. Following Bennett, the rest of the top 10, Tennessee quarterback, Hendon Hooker, Alabama quarterback, the winner of last year, the Heisman Award last year, Bryce Young, Michigan running back Blake Corum, Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., Texas running back Bijan Robinson. Is that how you say that? Bijan Robinson. And North Carolina quarterback Drake May, rounding out the top 10. So congratulations to Stetson. I watched the presentation. You people kept asking me, well, you think Stetson's going to win? I really didn't think he was going to win. There was so much against him. He's not the 5-star. And to be honest with you, Georgia on any stage really doesn't get the respect that Georgia deserves. I'm just sorry. I'm a media kind of guy and I watch all this stuff, and that's just the truth. So I didn't think Stetson was going to win. But, he had a good time being there. He represented the UGA very well, and so did Coach Smart at the Heisman Trophy presentation. What in the world is wrong with ESPN analyst Todd McShay? The young man had started a firestorm. He made a comment earlier in the week that Georgia interior defensive lineman Jalen Carter may not be as high a draft choice as some expect him to be because of, quote, character issues. That somehow Jalen Carter has some character issues that may scare teams off from making him a high draft choice. But then he turns around and says, well, he expects Carter to go second in the upcoming NFL draft. And Todd McShay gave no examples of what he was talking about. And man, has Bulldog Nation and Jalen Carter's teammates come to the defense of Jalen Carter against that comment by ESPN analyst Todd McShay. They said, that is ridiculous. That, they don't know where Todd McShay got that from, but they are defending their teammate, saying he is a great teammate, and they have no idea what Todd McShay is talking about when he talks about character issues. And I don't either. We've got a little contact with the team, and all I've ever heard is Jalen Carter's a stand-up guy. He's a good guy. He's a good teammate. And the players love him. The coaches love him. And I've never heard anything. Of course, I'm not saying I'm plugged in to all this stuff, but I've never heard anything of any kind of comment about Jalen Carter and so-called character issues. So Todd McShay, he's been getting it from the folks at Georgia, and they say, all right, put up or shut up. Let us know what you're talking about. Who said what? You can't just lay that out there and then go on and not give receipts about it and who said what and where. And so, as far as I know, Todd McShay has not replied to any of the challenges that he has received. But kind of made me upset a little bit. And I am a mellow kind of guy. I'm a mellow kind of guy until my Georgia Bulldogs are playing. And then I get, okay. On our program, on our podcast, and, on these dog talk things we do, I have mentioned several times about my favorite coaches. Kirby Smart's my number one favorite coach. But when I talk about my favorite coaches, I always list Lane Kiffin and Coach Mike Leach. Dwayne says, Todd at it again, not surprised. Yeah. Oh, I got you there. Dwayne made you wouldn't call that a metaphor, would you? Whatever I got you, Dwayne. I got you. But I love Lane Kiffin. I love the quirky guys. I'm sorry. And I'm not quirky. I'm just about as traditional as you can get in every way in my life. But I kind of love the guys who are unusual and off the wall and that kind of thing. And Lane Kiffin, his dog Juice has an Instagram page, for heaven's sakes. His dog does. And he has fun. He has fun in life. And but Mike Leach, one of my favorite coaches, and we all know that Coach Leach passed away this past Monday night at the age of 61, complications from a heart condition. And, I've been, and you see on social media and you see from folks putting out things, what Mike Leach meant to them and some unusual stories concerning Coach Leach. The Pirate, he's going to be missed. I'm going to miss him. I miss him already, and I never met him. But he was such an unusual guy. And some of those, the news conference he did when he was at Washington State talking about the mascots in the Pac-12. Please, if you've never seen that, Google it. And I mean, it's just hilarious. And the way he delivered, he appeared to be serious, but he knew he was, being funny. Now, he was a great coach too. He was a great coach and coached at Texas Tech, Washington State, Mississippi State, on the staff at Oklahoma, and Valdosta State. He was at several different places. But Mike Leach it broke my heart. Broke my heart that Mike Leach passed away. It really did. And when he gave the wedding advice to the sideline reporter for ESPN, the young lady who's getting married after Mississippi State beat somebody. And she kind of, prodded him along and said, look, I'm getting married. Can you give me some wedding advice? I mean, you need to Google these things. He was an original guy. So many great stories. Kudos to Mike Leach. Our prayers go out to his family. Mississippi State is going to play in their bowl game. They're playing Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl, some kind of thing. And at Tampa Bay Stadium, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. And of course, Mike Leach was known as the Pirate. He loved pirates. He was known as the Pirate. And there's a pirate ship inside of that stadium. The Buccaneers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a pirate ship. So how apropos is it that Mississippi State will be playing Illinois in a stadium with a pirate ship? Mike Leach, one of a kind. And it was a shock to me that he passed away. And good guy. And so, and a good coach, a very good coach. very innovative. The air raid offense. He learned it, at a small school. He began to learn that thing. Hal Mummy was a coach at Valdosta State and then at Kentucky. They worked together, kind of honed this thing out. The air raid offense. And it was heavy on the pass, but not as heavy as you think with the run as well. Anyway, Coach Leach, God rest his soul. And I've said a prayer for his family and for the players at Mississippi State and for what they went through, are going through. God bless him. Let's get a couple of comments. Miss Jean, no matter what Saban accomplished in his career, he'll never measure up to Bear Bryant. Yeah, I remember old Bear. Bear Bryant. Dwayne says, we lost a great man. He brought humor to the sport. Great man and will be missed. And he will be missed. I mean, he just, one of my favorite Bear Bryant stories. And I suppose it's true. There was a history professor at the University of Alabama who found out how much the university was paying Bear Bryant. And it made his salary, he's a history professor. It made his salary pale in comparison to what the football coach was making. So this history professor storms into the office of the president of the University of Alabama. And he was very indignant and he says, I can't believe you're paying a football coach this amount of money. And I'm a history professor and you're only paying me this amount of money. Well, the president of the university looked at the guy and said, well, look, if you can fill up Legion Field on a Saturday afternoon with 85,000 people to hear paying customers to hear one of your lectures, one of your history lectures, we'll pay you what we're paying Bear Bryant. Until then, it is what it is. Isn't that a great story? Anyway, so now, here at Dogs on Demand, we've one of our partners here at Dogs on Demand is Champ Bailey, Pro Football Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, a member of the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, member of the Georgia High School Hall of Fame. If there's a Hall of Fame, Champ Bailey's a part of it. If it has to do with football. He's one of our partners here at Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And Champ is a great guy. We've gotten to know him. We love him. He's a good friend. He's a great guy. Well, during a press conference for Georgia's semifinal matchup against Ohio State in the college football playoff, Peach Bowl CEO and President Gary Stokan announced that Champ Bailey will be Georgia's honorary captain for the game. So the hits just keep on going for our good friend Champ Bailey. Another award, another accomplishment for Champ Bailey. Of course, he was a great player for the University of Georgia. He played from 1996 to 98. He was a two-way player. Actually, he was a three-way player. He played offense, defense, and special teams. He was a defensive back and a wide receiver. He finished his college career with 59 receptions as a wide receiver, 978 receiving yards. He had 5 touchdowns. Defensively, he had 8 interceptions in his career and 67 career tackles. And he was also the kick returner for Georgia for 2 seasons. He played when Jim Donnan was the coach of the University of Georgia, went in the first round of the NFL draft in 1999, played for the Washington Redskins, went on to play, well, they were the Redskins then, thank you. And he went on to play for the Denver Broncos. He's now, again, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, consensus All-American in 1998, took home the Bronco Nagurski Trophy that year as the best defensive player in college football. 3-time All-Pro Bowl member, led the NFL in interceptions in 2006. A 3-time All-Pro member, 12-time Pro Bowler. the most Pro Bowl selections for a defensive back in NFL history. How about that? In 1998, Champ led the Bulldogs to a 9-3 record and a Peach Bowl appearance against Virginia. Georgia won that game 35-33. In that game, Champ Bailey caught a 14-yard touchdown pass to bring the Bulldogs back into the game during the third quarter. And now he will be Georgia's honorary captain in the Peach Bowl as the Bulldogs take on Ohio State. Our good friend Champ Bailey. Way to go, Champ. There you go. All right, guys. That's going to kind of wrap it up for us tonight. We're getting ever so closer. Okay. So Christmas is a week from Sunday, right? You know, you talk about how many nights sleeps until Christmas, you know? But I'm thinking how many nights sleeps until this game between Georgia and Ohio State. Can't wait, but we have to wait. Now, again, we'll be interviewing Gary Stokan, who is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl, on our podcast. We'll be recording that tomorrow. We'll get it up pretty quick for you to see what Gary has to say. And in the days to come, we'll be talking more about Georgia and Ohio State. By the way, if you'd like to contact us with your questions or comments or maybe subjects you want us to talk about, and we'll talk about it. Listen, I know a whole lot of stuff about nothing. And we'll talk about everything right here. So if you want to get in contact with us, go to dogsondemand.com. Great website. By the way, you'll find all kind of stuff there at Dogs on Demand. That's our website. And also you'll find a connection to our podcast. And we've had some great podcasts, David Pollock, Aaron Murray, and recruiting. The National Recruiting Day is coming up soon, and we'll be talking more about that as the days come forward. Georgia currently has the number 2 ranked recruiting class in the country. Possibility of maybe even surpassing Alabama for the number 1 ranked class if some certain things fall into place. All right, guys, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for being with us tonight. Hey, we always finish with those 2 beautiful words. By the way, thank you. I'm sorry. My producer's saying, what are you doing? By the way, thank you again for Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, for making our program possible. And until we meet again, we close with these 2 words. Go Dogs.